All right, here we go on a Monday. It's about 3:20 in the afternoon, July 14th. How about that? About halfway through the month. And we start out this week with a pretty typical summertime forecast. Very isolated rain chances here through Wednesday. Obviously, we'll probably see some on the map every day, but coverage won't be great. That'll lead to temperatures 93 to about 96. For some folks, especially in central Alabama, these could notch the highest temperatures or the warmest highest high temperature readings thus far. In 2025 compared to 2024, we had a significantly higher number of days in the 90s and 95 plus to this point in the year. And the big question, the potential tropical low in the Gulf, what does it mean for us? And do we get higher rain chances out of it? Let's dive into all of it, starting with a look at the composite radar. And again, we're beneath an upper level high. And it is so common, or so often common the case, there's not a whole lot of convection happening from Pensacola to Huntsville. A few isolated thunderstorms over in Cherokee and Cleburne County. That's about it. A look at the Birmingham view here. We have a couple showers between Coleman and Hartselle. And over here, just to the south of Weiss Lake, just east of Jacksonville near Piedmont in Cleburne County, we have a few pop-up thunderstorms again. Coverage has been fairly limited here in the northern central half of the state, and even down in southeast Alabama. Rain coverage minimal with the convective development there down along Florida's Forgotten Coast, and that stretches over to just north of Apalachicola and east of Bay County. So pretty quiet in that sense. Temperatures here across Alabama, some variability, anywhere from 91 in Huntsville all the way up to 94 in Dothan. Now, the temperatures this week will not be a seasonal high for southeast Alabama. They've already reached temperatures in the mid-90s, but for some in northern and central Alabama, we've yet to eclipse 94, which is something that it was kind of a rarity. If you look back at 2024, to this point in the year, through the 14th, we had logged 29 days of 90 plus. Compared to this year, we've had 15 days of 90 plus. And in 2024, 15 days alone were recorded to this point of 95 or greater. We've yet to reach 95 at Birmingham and other parts of central Alabama to this point. So a little bit of a difference here this season. Let's go to the HER and look at these higher res models have been burned a couple times, have shown a lot less coverage than what we've ended up getting. I do think today is one of those lower coverage days, and I think it's handled it quite well. And again, we have that upper level high in place that's subduing convective activity. We go into Tuesday's forecast, and again, these are mainly diurnally driven. So we have a couple ridge riders. We talked about that last week. You have your upper air ridge, and then over here where there's troughing, these thunderstorms that form will actually follow the top of that ridge axis, and that's what we're seeing here. That's why those are able to stay sustained overnight. But 2 o'clock in the afternoon tomorrow, just isolated shower thunderstorm coverage. Again, it's not looking like a very all-encompassing coverage, and that will likely be the case through the middle of the week for some. You'll notice higher coverage down here in the afternoon, parts of the Wiregrass, and even the Florida Big Bend area, and we'll get to why that is here in just a moment. So this is NDFD data, and again, this is a very broad stroking look at rain coverage probabilities. Tuesday's very low for much of the state, increasing across southeast Alabama. And then you go to Wednesday, and you start to see these darker greens come back, and that is that tropical low that'll be shifting into the northern Gulf. And of course, the closer proximity to that, the better chances of rain. As you go further south in the state, that's where your best rain chances will be. And then on Thursday, as you can see here, south of I-20 and then south of US 80, you get down into the southern third of Alabama, and that's where our rain chances will be most concentrated over that stretch. Let's look at Alabama high temperatures here over the next couple of days. Again, some of the highest heat levels for parts of northern and central Alabama, 96 in Sylacauga, 95 in Birmingham, potentially 96, 97 across parts of the Black Belt region, and very hot across the southern half of the state. Again, none of these numbers are completely out of the ordinary. Of course, average highs this time of year, 91 to 92, so we'll be above that. Wednesday, same deal. You'll notice lower heat levels, though, down to the south where those rain chances are highest. So let's get to why that is here. So this, again, has been the story early on this week, really into the weekend, is you have this low that's over in the right along the Gulf Stream, just to the east of the Florida Peninsula here. And as of right now, it's not a very strong surface low. Millibars, I think central pressure was around 1,015, which is not especially strong, especially given the where that is with latitude and being in the kind of tropical regions here. But the question is, will this develop into anything? This is the NHC outlook for the next 7 days, basically painted a broad area, 30% chance of development thereabouts here as it moves into the northern Gulf. This product here is off the European ensemble. This is a look at the probabilities of experiencing tropical depression winds. Now, right in here at the highest, it's about a 60% or so. And again, this just looks at the potential for this to sustain tropical depression winds. I think at strongest, that's what this low will turn into as it drifts here into the warm waters of the northern Gulf. A typical movement this time of year, based off of our steering winds, does move systems from east to west. That is why we have the direction that we do with hurricanes and tropical development. Again, this is not one at the moment. It's literally a surface low, and we will see this cross over the Florida Peninsula over the next couple of days. This is a look. I just want to look at some of the data here. These are sea surface temperatures, and you can see we have a lot of mid-80s, some upper 80s here. Some of the warmest temperatures in the Gulf are actually off the Louisiana, Mississippi coastline here, where you see this cluster of 86, 87. But it's all relatively warm. You like to see a sea surface temperature of 82 or so to really contribute to tropical development. So let's go now to a wind shear forecast, okay? So where you're seeing the red, that is where there's no shear. It might seem kind of backwards, but minimal shear is red. That's where you're more likely to see structural development within a low. Where you're seeing no colors depicted here, that is very high shear and an unlikely development for anything tropical. So let's take this forward to about this time tomorrow. We go to, overshot that. All right. So let's try that again. Here we go. Okay, so this is at about 2:30 on Tuesday. And what are you seeing? Very limited or low shear in the northeastern Gulf. Well, that's likely a product of that low being in place. And with that low in place, you're not seeing a huge change in winds throughout that atmospheric profile. And a low shear environment is one that typically favors some intensification or some better structure with respect to any sort of development. So that's Tuesday. We go into Wednesday, and you start to see more increased shear values here, and that's a good thing. That will typically deter tropical development. So I just want to show those parameters here before we moved on to some modeling data. So we'll now go to, this is the European. The GFS doesn't hardly show this at all. In fact, to back up, the global models are not really giving this a whole lot of attention, but we know global models miss stuff, and everything misses from time to time, but the European's the one that's most aggressive with this particular system. So here we are Tuesday morning. There's your high pressure right there, just south of the Louisiana coastline. There's the aforementioned low. And you're going to see this shift across the Florida Peninsula Tuesday afternoon into Tuesday evening. And this puts it Wednesday afternoon here in the northern Gulf. So what to expect Wednesday, an increase in rain coverage along the Gulf Coast, southeast Alabama, where we saw those higher rain probabilities. But again, it just looks like a broad area of low pressure. Could this turn into a depression? It sure could. We got warm enough sea surface temperatures. Shear values aren't the highest, but they're also not great. I tend to think at its strongest, this will turn into a tropical depression, but you know, we'll have to wait and see on that. This is Wednesday. Got that position just to due south of Pensacola Beach. At least the center of that surface low. Again, at this point, it's no major feature. It's a tropical low featuring tropical rains along the Gulf Coast. So Wednesday and Thursday will probably be our wetter days down along the Florida coast, the Alabama coast, and the Mississippi Gulf Coast. There's Thursday, the low now approaching the Louisiana and some of those areas south and east of New Orleans, those parishes down there. And this will gradually shift on shore Friday into the weekend, and you're going to notice broad rain coverage for much of the southeast. As a tropical system moves on shore, it brings about a lot of moisture to work with, and usually as a byproduct of that, we have better and more extensive rain coverage. But again, the next couple of days, it's close to the coast. It's really a rainmaker at most. It's going to increase our rip current risk as well. But as far as significant development, I don't really see that happening. And once it moves on shore, it just becomes a low like any other. I want to go to our precipitable water. This is an interesting product here because it shows the amount of water available in the atmosphere. Basically a moisture reading in the mid-levels. So here we go back to Tuesday morning. There's where that low is depicted, and you'll see on our table here, 3 inches is an incredibly high value. It is a tropical value, but keep an eye on where those values are at. Very high precipitable water levels here in the eastern Gulf. Relatively low across central Alabama, but still, I mean, those are decent precipitable water values. I want to show you, though, what happens as this moves. It's going to bring about, you can see that tropical moisture. Those bright greens is a lot of precipitable water. Notice, by Wednesday evening, it goes up into southern half of Alabama. So where we have high PWATs, you typically see high rain coverage once these get going. Same deal on Thursday. And really for the Alabama weekend is where this will get interesting, because as this moves north, this whole air mass associated with this circulation here is going to bring about a very, very high moisture-laden air mass into the southeast. And this could, in turn, mean a couple things. Number one, we have a higher moisture content. Okay, that's going to mean our heat index is going to be much higher. So a high of 91 might feel like, you know, a heat index of 102, 104, somewhere in that range, depending on the amount of sunshine that we get. But it's also going to give us pretty decent rain chances late in the week versus what we have here early in the week. So let's go to the WPC rain. This is an average, and you can see a couple highlighted points across the heartland and into the Corn Belt there. You're seeing totals 2 to 3, and then across the Ohio Valley, 1 to maybe 2. Then, of course, the other area that jumps out is the Mid-Atlantic region, New York down to parts of Virginia, West Virginia, and then here along the Gulf Coast, where our precipitable water is going to be high, and our rain coverage will be higher as well. But notice the 7-day averages here for central Alabama. It's pretty low. You're looking at less than a half an inch of rainfall, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that the next couple days will be relatively dry. The weekend will offer up higher rain chances. So again, we'll keep a close eye on it. As of now, it's just a broad, low pressure that's out over the Gulf Stream, and we'll have to watch and see. I don't think this is a major tropical type of an event. What it will do, though, if you're along the beaches, is increase our rip current risk. So looking especially late week here, as this low moves into the Gulf, it is going to increase our winds south to southeast 10 to 20. And it'll disrupt the waters a little bit. It'll also give us higher rain coverage. There will still be periods of sun, but the late week looks a lot wetter, especially Wednesday and Thursday along the Gulf Coast. So just something to keep in mind as we go later in the week. So that's a look at kind of our forecast here as we head through the next several days. Of course, we'll keep you updated on the tropics moving ahead. Hopefully you've had a good start to your week.